Virginia Governor Ralph Northam's boatload of gun control proposals were sent to the deep last week as Senate Republicans voted against resolutions that would implement universal background checks, limit Virginians to one firearms purchase a month, and raise the legal age of purchase for a firearm. But not one of these proposals would have done anything to avert gun violence or lessen its toll. They would, however, stomp on the rights of millions of Virginians. This won't be the last that we'll see of Ralph Northam's anti-Second Amendment crusade, though, because I'm sure he has a lot more left. Now joining me, Vice President and Legislative Director for the Virginia Shooting Sports Association, David Adams. David, welcome to the program. I'm sorry about your governor, although in some states, a lot of other states are going through the same thing similarly. Walk us through some of this because, in terms of, we've talked about this on this program actually last week, raising the age to purchase a firearm, the universal background checks, none of these things have ever been proven. There's nothing, no evidence, no studies, no data, anything to substantiate the necessity for something like this. Talk a little bit about how this is being received in your state of Virginia.
Well, I can tell you that for the last several years, we've been seeing a lot of the usual gun control proposals, the background checks. Used to be it was a gun show loophole. Now it's called a universal background check. Just within the last couple of years, we started seeing assault weapon ban proposals come through. But of course, this year they're following the same model that's happened in other states. They're trying to raise the age to purchase a long gun. The Senate version of that bill was defeated last week. There was another bill dropped on Friday, which was the last day to introduce legislation for this session, and that's House Bill 2797, and that's over in the House. It's a little bit different than Senator Saslaw's bill would have done. He tried to wrap in a universal background check and then phase in an increase in the age to purchase a long gun. This bill just tries to phase in anyone who is 18 by June 30th of this year would not be covered by the bill, but it would eventually hit anyone who's 18 years old after a 3-year phase in.
Yeah, which I can't imagine that there are a lot of 18 to 21-year-olds or 18 to 20-year-olds that are incredibly happy about having their rights infringed upon, although it's overlooked. I mean, what have you heard from people on that particular demographic in Virginia? I mean, a lot of them, all my cousins when I was growing up that were in that age bracket, every single one of them hunted, and they would go out sometimes even before school. What are you hearing from those who would be directly affected by that particular proposal?
I can tell you my daughter's not real happy with it. She just turned 18. Now, she wouldn't have been covered by this bill the way it was drafted. She would have been covered in other states, I believe Florida for one of them, because I think they just hit anyone who was 18. She loves to hunt. She loves to shoot my AR-15. It's one of her favorite guns to shoot. So she wasn't real happy with it. And other folks at her school who like to hunt and target shoot were not happy with it.
Right. Northam has been trying to make pleas to he did this in a State of Commonwealth address. He was saying that, these sorts of proposals have been passed in Republican states. Does that sort of plea work on Virginian gun owners, though?
I don't think so. And, it was funny, the red flag bills that went down last week, every news article I read talking about it talked about how President Trump was in favor of that. Like, just because he may have been in favor of it, we should do that here in Virginia too.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, just because they're doing it, we should implement it as well. In 94% of Virginians, I'm looking at this. I wanted to make sure I cited this right. I didn't look at the crosstabs on this, but it looks like it was a university poll. Republicans, obviously, they crushed the background check legislation. 94% of Virginians were said to have supported the background check legislation, and of course that's that loophole that doesn't exist. That's the whole criminalizing private transactions. Do you believe the data that has been put out to try to convince voters, hey, you need to come look, all of these other Virginia gun owners support this, all these other Virginia voters support this? I've noticed that they never actually release their full methodology on things like this. Your thoughts?
I think it also has to do with the way you ask the question, because we do have background checks now for firearms purchases. So
Right.
most people think, well, we're doing a background check, so that's no big deal. But if you start asking, deeper questions, well, do you think you should have to run a background check on someone that's been at your gun club that you've known for the last 10 years? Or do you have to run a background check on someone who you've worked with for years that also likes to shoot and would like to purchase one of your firearms? I think your answers would be a lot different.
There you go. Dave Adams with the Virginia Shooting Sports Association. Dave, thank you so much for joining us and giving us your thoughts on this. We'll be keeping a weathered eye on Virginia and everything that happens there. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Dana.